right, soulmates, we have finally made it to Friday. Couldn't have come here so
kicking and screaming.
That's right. All righty. Today, we're all going to look forward to including the new company from our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, and how one nurse right here in the Detroit area is being honored for her work in healthcare, seeing as though Nurses Week is upon us. Welcome to FOXSOUL's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. Plus, what the Kojic Church is doing for kids in foster care and what the brat and her wife say they're forced to do in their journey in becoming parents. They're the stories that impact our people.
We're going to bring you our news, our views, and our voice. So let's get into our top story for today. A former Marine is under scrutiny after the death of Jordan Neely, a homeless, actually he's a Michael Jackson impersonator who had mental issues. Video footage shows him holding Neely in a chokehold for nearly 3 minutes. Neely was resuscitated but pronounced dead after arriving at a hospital. The Marine was questioned but not charged, sparking protests and calls for justice. Manhattan DA's office is investigating the matter, while the mayor of New York, Mayor Adams, has called for more investment in mental health care.
And this is just a tragedy of epic proportions. I mean, yeah, he was homeless. He was a Michael Jackson impersonator,
street performer,
and he had multiple sort of run-ins with the law. But that doesn't give anybody permission to take your life.
That's right.
Right? It's not clear that he posed any sort of risk to anybody else's life on that subway train. So to put somebody in the chokehold for 15 minutes, and then you get taken into custody, but then you're released. Something about this does not feel right. It doesn't smell right. It has no regard for Black life. And we've got to decide: do we want to live in a nation where we have laws that govern our behavior, or do we want to live in a nation where vigilantism is allowed to run rampant? It looks like vigilantism is winning in this case thus far.
Yeah, you can see that the temper starting to continue to bubble, as you saw there in New York with the protesters. And a lot of people are calling not just for that particular Marine, but the other two men who also happen to be white, who kept restraining Neely as his body went limp. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. So at what point do you let up when you see that, his eyes are rolling in the back of his head? You've seen either the video or the still shots. You can see the life leaving him, and they did not let up on that pressure. And so definitely for a lot of people, it looks like excessive force. And we were hoping that authorities circle back around and really take a look at this case and bring charges.
It is another tragic reminder of George Floyd. I mean,
really
that
is.
was not that long ago, and people sort of sat by and watched this man lose
people
his
of all
life.
colors. People of all color. If you take a look at the video, all people watched this happen. So a lot of people should probably take some responsibility here.
We'll keep our eye on that. Well, St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner, the city's first Black prosecutor and a Democrat, announced her resignation amid allegations of negligence and calls for her to be removed by Republican leaders. Gardner said that she would step down effective June 1st. Republican Attorney General Andrew Bailey had taken legal action to remove Gardner from office in February, citing the high number of unpunished cases under her watch. Gardner's resignation letter also cited legislative efforts on a bill that would allow Parson to appoint a special prosecutor to handle violent crimes, effectively removing her bulk of responsibilities.
All right, let's move on here. Former Democratic nominee for governor of Florida and ex-mayor of Tallahassee, Andrew Gillum, was found not guilty of lying to the FBI, but a mistrial was declared on 18 other counts related to corruption allegations. Prosecutors claim that Gillum and his mentor, Sharon Letman Hicks, took political donations and funneled them into their own bank accounts. He denied those allegations and called the case politically motivated. He was previously found in a South Beach hotel with a man suspected of a drug overdose. This happened back in 2020, but faced no charges related to that particular incident. Now, regarding this most recent case, the government may decide to retry.
According to ProPublica, Justice Clarence Thomas is facing a fresh round of scrutiny after the third blockbuster report in less than a month, linking him financially to GOP mega donor Harlan Crow. Crow paid thousands of dollars in tuition for Thomas's great nephew to attend a private boarding school. Federal ethics laws require justices to report gifts given to a dependent child, but Thomas's allies argue that the payment does not violate the disclosure law since it was for Thomas's sister's grandson. Democrats are calling for the justices to adopt a binding code of ethics. Last month, it was reported that Thomas accepted luxury trips from Crow and that Crow purchased real estate from Thomas's mother. Republicans are not willing to interfere, stating that the Supreme Court writes its own rules.
Which is why this justice here feels as though he doesn't have to answer to anybody. These are just the gifts that keep on giving. And with all these allegations, new allegations on top of the allegations, he still hasn't said anything. And I don't, it appears as though his stance, I mean, I can't speak for anybody, but he really hasn't said too much. And so it would appear as though, he really doesn't see any wrongdoing here. And, his first response to those very first allegations was, I didn't know. How you don't know? Whether you agree with his politics or not, he has made it to the top of the top. You're the best lawyer ever. You're the best judge ever. At that point, as far as sitting on the Supreme Court, how you don't know?
Well, he sure don't know a lot. You didn't know. You didn't know that he bought your mama's house. You didn't know that he paid for your great nephew
yacht trips
to go to school, yacht trips, right? There are reports that his wife Jenny Thomas, folks have been funneling money to her. Judicial activists have been funneling money to her, and so. Not only when there's smoke, there's fire. It seems like a 4-alarm fire that's only getting worse by the week. But if Dems don't win back the House, if Dems don't build upon their majority in the Senate, then we're just going to continue to hear a lot more about this in the news because there's nobody that can force the U.S. Supreme Court to reform itself other than Congress. And as long as there's a divided Congress, they get to run roughshod and do what they want to do. And so if we want to see the Supreme Court reform itself, if we want to see them adopt some ethics similar to the same ethics we govern ourselves by, then voters need to pay attention in November.
Justice Thomas might not learn today, but he will eventually learn as these allegations keep rolling out.
Some may hope.
All right, let's move on here. The U.S. Department of Justice announced a settlement agreement with Alabama after an environmental justice probe found the state engaged in a pattern of inaction regarding the risks of raw sewage for residents in the impoverished majority Black-owned Lowndes County. Now, federal officials found that generations of Black rural residents lacked access, listen to this, to basic sanitation services and were exposed to raw sewage in their neighborhoods, schools, playgrounds, and even inside of their homes. Now, the settlement requires the state to create a comprehensive plan for the region and a moratorium on fines for inadequate home systems. Talk about just not even heartbreaking, evil.
Very evil.
Because they were aware and this was ongoing.
Yeah, and big shout out to Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark in the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division for looking out for Black folks in rural communities.
That's right.
This is the county that includes Selma
and Montgomery.
And we know the significance of Selma and Montgomery in terms of the fight for civil rights in this country. Well, right now it is ground zero for the fight for environmental justice. There are about 10,000 people that live in this town, of which almost 3/4 of them are Black. Almost 1/3 of them live in poverty. And this is a county that we need to pay extra close attention to, because what's happening there is happening in too many parts of the country. As I read this, I couldn't help but think about Flint. I couldn't help but think about Jackson. I couldn't help but think about so many majority Black cities out there, cities that are majority folks of color, where people are looking the other way. How is it that in the United States of America, one of the wealthiest nations on the country, we can't handle sanitation?
And this was the first.
In Alabama?
I agree with that, because this was the first investigation. So the first results of the first investigation under that Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. So unfortunately, probably one of many to come, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, Florida Republicans passed bills banning diversity programs in colleges and mandating the use of pronouns that correspond to someone's sex, strengthening Governor Ron DeSantis' hardline conservative agenda. The two proposals aim to reinforce the governor's stance on sexual orientation, gender identity, race, and education in his bid for the White House. The Florida State Senate also voted to expand the Don't Say Gay law and ban classroom instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation up to the 8th grade. Meanwhile, the House approved a proposal to ban people from entering bathrooms that don't correspond to their sex. Now, Democrats criticized the policy as being exclusionary and punishing.
All right, so let's move on to more uplifting news. As our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama, has co-founded a new food and beverage company called Pleasy Nutrition, aimed at providing healthier eating options for families. Now, the new venture will work with her Let's Move campaign aimed at reducing childhood obesity and will focus on changing the food and beverage industry to provide products. The first product from this particular line will be a drink. It's going to be aimed at kids between the ages of 6 and 12 with 75% less sugar than those popular fruit juices. And it's going to be able to, you're going to be able to purchase it at Target, Sprouts stores, and online via Walmart. It's going to come in about 4 different flavors and 75% of that sugar, 75% less sugar, which is a big deal.
That's a very big deal. I mean, you know, so years ago during the Obama years, you know, I worked on childhood obesity policy. And this is a big fight. This was a big fight then, it's a big fight now, and it's good to see that, you know, our forever First Lady has not backed down for this fight, but she's decided to influence the industry, to lead the industry in a different way by, you know, becoming co-founder of this company. This is part of the reason why so many kids experience childhood obesity, why so many kids can't attain a healthy weight. And so it's good to see her being a part of the solution.
Yeah, I remember when she launched it. I was working in DC, and she was just cut down at every single angle. You know, nobody wanted to hear this. Nobody wanted to jump on board, but she persevered and she pushed through. I was honored to be a part of her press corps. So we toured that whole DMV and went to different schools, and we danced and we talked, and she gave the message, and the kids loved it, especially when Beyonce would show up and do the little, you know, let's move campaign dance. So it is wonderful to see that, you know, she still assigns herself to this mission, to this ministry, to help keep us healthy, especially the children, because they're the future, and we know the future is now. So big ups to the forever First Lady, as the culture likes to refer to her.
That's right.
For sure.
Well, Forbes has released its annual list of the world's 10 highest paid athletes of 2023, with 8 of the top 10 earning over $100 million. 3 of the highest earners are Black basketball players who've signed lifetime contracts with sports apparel companies. LeBron James of the LA Lakers is the 4th highest earner with nearly $120 million, while Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors sits at 8th place, having earned over $100 million for the first time this year. Kevin Durant made nearly $90 million, with his earnings split evenly between basketball and business investments, including deals with Nike, the Premier Lacrosse League, and Happy Viking.
Let me tell you what I love about this. All them billions running up and down the court. And right now you got the semifinals going on with Curry and James. And last night the LA beat the no, was it, who won last night? I think somebody won by 30 points. I can't remember which one, but they beat the brakes off of them, whoever won last night. But Golden State, thank you. But here's the one. You know, as a culture, we say, you know, we push our young people towards basketball and football because as a way out. And for some of them, a very small percentage of them, it has been a way out. But I love once they have gotten there in this new generation of an athlete, there's so much diversity in how they have opened up different lanes. So, you know, the young people coming up who may play basketball but might not make it to that level can still see that there are other ways to make a good living, other type of decisions to be made, you know, other ways that you can, you know, become successful. It just happened for me to happen by way of basketball, but maybe for you, it's focusing in on a STEM curriculum or something like that. I think that's the example that comes out of this.
And it's so good to see that it's about more than just basketball, right? I mean, Michael Jordan, you know, is a blueprint, but I think, you know, these athletes like LeBron James, you know, and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, you know, are riffing off of that and offering a new blueprint in terms of, you know, how you can leverage your name and your likeness and your brand, and also, you know, invest in the things that you care about, you know. And so not only is LeBron James, for example, making a lot of money, but he's also giving a lot of it back.
Yeah. this week is moving by so quick. I couldn't remember who won who, because LA got them the other night. They got them last night by like 30 some odd points. And these two teams haven't met since like the 90s. Mm-hmm. So this is a big deal. And we're talking two, guys who represent the best of the best in the league right now. And then to partner it with a story like this, it just gives it all of that zhushness, kind of like how the Super Bowl and how that went down with the two black quarterbacks.
That's
It's
right.
a beautiful thing.
It is. Very
really
beautiful.
Is. All right. Still ahead. Tomorrow kicks off Nurses Week, and we have one of the best here with us.
That's right. Nurse T joins us in studio to talk about the importance of nursing, black recruitment, how she's making a difference, and more. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to FOXSOUL's Black Report. Well, this Saturday is the start of Nurses Appreciation Week, but the Detroit City Council is celebrating early.
Yeah, man. The council members are recognizing a local nurse for introducing high schoolers to careers in healthcare. She is known around these parts as Nurse T and is paving the way for future generations of nurses. Our good friend right here at Fox Detroit, Brandon Hudson, hey brother, has the story.
Watch her head. We need to lay her flat though.
At Renaissance High School, class is in session.
That bed too is always going to be by the window.
But these lessons aren't in a textbook. This group of high school students is learning how to save lives.
I'm learning things that I feel like everyone should learn, even if they're not in the healthcare field. Like, we learn things like the Heimlich maneuver, CPR.
We've also learned a lot of things about the human body and the way diseases affect our patients.
This semester, Renaissance partnered with Excelling Nursing Academy for a pilot program introducing high school juniors and seniors to careers in nursing free of charge.
My students here at Renaissance, they are hungry for knowledge. They're like a sponge. They want to learn.
Tavira Alexander, or Nurse T, created this opportunity to pay it forward. On Tuesday, Detroit City Council recognized her with the Spirit of Detroit Award. But she doesn't do the program for the accolades.
So many people put down our youth, put down the children in the inner city schools. I am a product of DPS, of Detroit Public Schools. So because I am successful, I'm sure there are many other more successful students who are here, and it's my job to reach back and to help those students.
Tavira says being exposed to healthcare at a young age is what led her to nursing. Her program teaches students how to care for patients physically and emotionally.
Every high school needs a program like this because more people need to be enlightened about healthcare and caring for people.
Nurse T is a great teacher. She's very real with everything she says, and I feel like that's very important because this field isn't always going to be peaches and cream.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics says the need for registered nurses will grow by 12% over the next 6 years, with a shortage of 200,000 nurses by 2025. Add to that, a new report from Gallup says only 7% of current nurses are black or African American. Numbers that highlight why Nurse T's program is so valuable.
The ratio from nurse to patient ratio is very high right now. And the nurses are being burned out. We're being overworked in the hospital. And then that makes the nurses run away from the bedside. And that's where the compassionate nurses are needed.
Wow, wow, wow. All right, National Nurses Week is celebrated every year from May 6th to May the 12th. And as National Nurses Week, as it has kicked off, we here at FOXSOUL's Black Report are honored to welcome Tavira Alexander, registered nurse and founder of Nurse T's Future Nurses program, aimed at inspiring the next generation of nurses. She's also my girl. Welcome. I'm glad to finally get you here, baby.
Glad to be here.
Indeed. You are doing so much. Yes, absolutely amazing. You just got the Spirit of Detroit Award. That is amazing.
Yes,
congratulations to you. The work is awesome. So let's talk about, Nurses Week and how you and your community is going to go about, celebrating this week and allowing us to love on y'all and appreciate y'all. I felt like if it wasn't for nurses, with one of my health crises back in the day, I wouldn't be here. And I know that for sure.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you all for having me on FOXSOUL today. And thank you for acknowledging the hard work that nurses do. Mm-hmm. And happy Nurses Week and Nurses Month to all of the nurses, all my fellow nurses out here, because we have to work together to make this happen for our patients.
That's right. Tell us a little bit more about Nurse T and all of these amazing programs.
Absolutely. So Nurse T's Future Nurses program is the first time I'm doing this program. This is actually happening tomorrow in Detroit at Renaissance High School from 1 to 5 p.m.
Okay.
And we're excited to expose the next generation of nurses. I am just excited about that, to take these little blessings from ages 6 to 13 and expose them to things in healthcare, hand washing, vital signs, asthma, using the EpiPen, CPR, life-saving techniques. It's important.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what inspired you to get into nursing. Sometimes, you know, our nurses are unsung heroes. Talk a little bit about what inspired you to go this route.
Well, first of all, nursing isn't my job. It's my calling. Oh. Okay?
Your ministry.
And absolutely.
I love that.
That's what the city council told me. It's a ministry, and it is. It is. Growing up, being raised by my grandparents and the elderly in the church, I always took my weekends to go and braid somebody's hair, wash one of the mothers at the church.
It was just in you.
It was in me, that's right. And so I have that compassion. So I believe in taking care of the elderly, and I am a nurturer, so I believe in giving back and helping.
All right, so let's talk about specifically Black nurses, all right, and talk about the low percentage of Black nurses in the healthcare industry, especially men. How do we go about tackling this issue? Because we know, and we've talked about this on FOXSOUL's Black Report, you know, we need more folks in the medical industry who look like us. So I feel more comfortable, you know, coming into your care. Talk a little bit about why you think those percentages are so low and what we can do to get those numbers up.
The reason I think they're so low is because sometimes our children fear the math and the sciences because they are not exposed to the math and the sciences at an early age. Children in other countries and other cultures, some of them don't even have a TV in their home, you know? So their children are exposed and have that experience to be around healthcare at a young age. So that's why my program is so important, to expose and bring it to the inner city in the public high schools and elementary and middle schools, to expose these children so that they won't have that fear of the sciences. Yeah.
As someone who's a part of the medical field, as a nurse, you're that inside voice. Talk a little bit about why, as patients, we experience so much discrimination sometimes when, you know, those nurses or those doctors don't look like us. And as a nurse yourself, how do you go about kind of combating that and making us as patients feel a lot more comfortable to come see about our health issues?
Absolutely. And I treat patients the way they want to be treated. I don't treat them the way I want to be treated. So I think that when you see someone who is like us, that makes us feel more comfortable. They're not coming in and telling us, you can't eat those collard greens and that fried chicken and macaroni and cheese.
Not understanding our culture.
Right, not understanding.
And that we gonna eat it.
Right, that we're going to eat it. But maybe we can just eat it in moderation. So if we have a nurse or a physician who understands that they're going to eat that soul food sometime, then they can help us break it down or help us put it in different, feed us in moderations or serve it in moderations and limit it. You know what I'm
so
saying?
maybe cut down on the sodium, maybe not ham hocks or smoked turkey, but maybe meatless greens.
Absolutely.
And you can still, you know, season it good and have it.
And use some fresh herbs and seasonings, some Mrs. Dash.
That's right. Speaking of seasonings and salt and things of that nature, we as a culture, we love our food to taste the way it is supposed to taste, and we would throw some salt on something even before we taste it.
We need the flavor.
Which leads to a lot of complications, in particular particularly blood pressure. So you've got some equipment here. You're gonna take my blood pressure, see where we're at.
Absolutely.
And while we go about doing this, Nurse T, talk a little bit about some of the other causes of blood pressure, some of the symptoms that we can look for, and why we're so fearful to get that thing checked. And when we do, we don't take the medication. I know that's a lot, but I'm trying to get it all in here.
It's a lot, but blood pressure, I want everybody to know, is the silent killer. Sometimes there's no sign at all. Okay? So I want you to be aware of that. So things that you want, when you have an increased blood pressure, you want to look at things like, you want to definitely look for headaches. Let me take your blood pressure first, so I can listen.
So you say headaches,
dizziness,
fatigue,
dizziness, definitely, and even some nosebleeds. Sometimes patients have nosebleeds.
And what about your mood? I know you got to listen, but what about sometimes it affects your mood.
Yes, absolutely,
you get a little sluggish,
you will feel
moody,
sluggish, weak with headaches and dizziness, blurred vision, sometimes seeing spots. Actually, before your eyes or halos, you need to call 911.
Okay, let's see what it sounds good. Is it coming through?
You got 110 over 80.
Is that good?
Yes, great.
Hey!
So we want to stick around the 120 over 80.
Okay.
And we know that Actually, when someone has high blood pressure, those are the signs we look for. But again, the number one sign is no sign at all.
So I want to ask about the top and the bottom, because sometimes, you know, we'll go to the doctor's office, they'll throw that number out at us, and they'll just say good or not so good. And what does that mean?
Okay, so we have a top number.
Okay.
That is our systolic.
Okay.
Okay. And so what that is when the heart is contracting, so it's beating.
Okay.
The bottom number is our diastolic, and that's when the heart is at rest. So we don't want that systolic to get above 160. We want to keep it definitely above, try to keep it below 120 if we can, but we definitely, if it's above 120, they start watching it.
So what's that good range for that top and bottom number?
120 over 80 is usually what we want to stick around. But again, sometimes it doesn't. Now, if you are a patient who does have high blood pressure, your baseline may be a little different than someone who doesn't.
Okay, so very important. Before we let you go, let's talk a little bit about your programs. You have your books here, and you really are all about the young people. I mean, you want to keep us grown folks healthy. Sometimes healthy, we get a little hard-headed, but it's the children. You want to start at the very beginning. You were talking about STEM and how sometimes you know, the young kids, black girls in particular, kind of shy away from that. But you get them started and get them exposed pretty early.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely, and it's very important. And to start, and it's called, my new product will be launched actually tomorrow for Future Nurses Week.
Congratulations.
But these books are here and available, and the thing is, we want to make sure that we're playing with a purpose. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I want to make sure that I encourage and motivate my next generation of healthcare professionals.
How can we get linked? How can we follow you? How can we join? How can we come and see you? Because we know you take care of the people. Link us up.
Yes, thenurseswhocare.com. where you can follow us, and you can follow our website. You can see and invest in material on the website at thenurseswhocare.com.
You are an absolute pleasure. You are a light. Continue to keep guiding us in the way that we must go to stay healthy and to live as long as we were purposed and designed to do. I love you so. Thanks for joining us today, FOXSOUL Black Report. All right, up next, the Black Church understands that children are the future, and the Kojic Church is doing its part. When we come back, we'll tell you how they're making sure foster kids have a safe place to call home. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report.
Welcome back to FOXSOUL's Black Report. Well, the Church of God in Christ has partnered with the Tennessee Department of Children's Services to provide transitional housing for children waiting to make it to foster care.
So this comes after months after the state came under scrutiny after some children were having to sleep in administrative offices because they had nowhere else to go. Now the church is providing 3 transitional apartments with bunk beds, desks, washers and dryers. Ashley Furniture donated the furniture in the apartments. Governor Bill commended the partnership between the Tennessee Department of Children's Services and the Kojic Church.
Presiding Bishop John Drew Sheard said, quotes, "It's an honor for us to provide housing so children won't have to sleep in the streets or in offices or in other non-equipped areas while awaiting permanent placement." Yeah, native Detroiter, and you know, I'm loving under his leadership. There's this newness. You know, the Kojic Church has been around for forever, and sometimes they've been criticized for like staying in their own little lane. But you know, I just see this global kind of outreach, this outreach that really touches you know, our people and our blocks and our communities. And you know, we've always looked to the church to lead the way, and so big ups to the Kojic faith for you know, such a partnership like this. And we've also looked at the church to accept people coming as they are, and we know that a lot of the young people that are in the foster care system are Black and folks of color. We know there are a lot of LGBTQ foster youth, and so we can only hope that, you know, all of them not only have a safe place to go, but they feel safe and they feel like they belong. And so, you know, this is perhaps a step in the right direction. Indeed. All right, so let's stick with the church for a moment, as black clergy within the Southern Baptist Convention are calling foul. Some of the denomination's prominent Black pastors are questioning the selection process of its new president. Now, earlier this week, the executive committee voted down a recommendation and bypassed an African-American pastor who has led the committee as interim president for more than a year. In what some are calling a secretive process, Bishop A.B. Vines, a former SBC vice president and former president of the National African American Fellowship within the SBC,
didn't take issue with who the denomination chose, but said the process was secretive and didn't, quote, pass the smell test. The denomination has already lost some black clergy in recent years over what they have seen as a failure of the mostly white-led denomination to make good on its pledges to reform after its history of supporting slavery and segregation. While the SBC elected its first black president in 2012, no African Americans have led any of those denominations, powerful agencies, or seminaries.
We have an update to a story we told you about regarding two Kenyan pastors who allegedly conducted a mass cult-like killing. Pastor Paul McKenzie was released, then rearrested and presented to a Kenyan upper court. McKenzie was first arrested 2 weeks ago over links to cultism for asking his followers to starve to death in order to meet Jesus. More than 100 bodies have been exhumed from dozens of mass graves on his property. Children are believed to be among the dead, but it's unclear how many, as some of the bodies are in poor condition. Now, according to the AP, and that's according to the AP, the higher court has authorized McKenzie's detention until today, when an application to hold him for a further 30 days pending terrorism investigations will be heard. His wife, Rhoda Mawu, was arrested on Monday night from a hideout after weeks on the run.
Yeah, I remember us talking about this maybe about a week and a half or so ago when that story broke about, the believers who had, followed him and now are not here anymore. And really, you and I just came to the summation that, it's checks and balances. You got to check these folks out, and the credibility. We talked about the bishop out of New York yesterday and how those allegations continue to pile up on him. And you want to say maybe shame on the followers, shame on the believers. But if they really believed that, someone was led and was hearing from, a higher power, shame on that spiritual leader, shame on that pastor, shame on that bishop for just grossly misleading these folks. And this situation in Africa doesn't look like it's over just yet.
You're right. And if it can happen there, it can happen here. If it can happen here, it can happen there.
That's right.
Everywhere you go, you got to beware of false prophets.
I agree. All right, just in time for King Charles III's coronation happening tomorrow, The Guardian has obtained documents showing that the king's ancestor, Edward Porteous, was involved in buying at least 200 shackled Africans from the Royal African Company. This was back in 1686. The enslaved people were taken to a Virginia tobacco plantation. Now, the researcher, her name is Desiree Baptiste, unearthed the documents while looking into links between the Church of England and Virginia slaveholders for a play. Now, according to the paper, a palace spokesperson declined to answer the Guardian's inquiries about the royal family's connection to the Virginia plantation until after King Charles's coronation.
Well, former president of the National Black Police Association in the UK, Francine Jones, has been invited to the coronation, and she is celebrating the invite as a win for diversity. The former president says it's the biggest recognition of her work to ensure diversity. Jones has been asked to wear her medal to the service and said the recognition allows her to fulfill her purpose of trying to tackle racism. In more coronation news, Lionel Richie and Katy Perry are set to headline the coronation concert.
I just wonder how, this is great, and if she chooses to attend, fantastic. How are all the dots connected for her to even get the invitation? I understand the performers, Lionel Richie and whomever else, but I think it's great. Hey, I feel her, diversity, a sister, hanging out at the coronation, but I just wonder how that came about.
Well, I think people around the world and in the UK, across the Commonwealth, are looking to see how does King Charles govern himself and govern, the Commonwealth differently than Queen Elizabeth, right? Especially when it comes to issues related to racial justice. People want to know, what are you going to do about reparations? What are you going to do about this ugly underbelly part of the history of the monarchy? People want to know. And so, maybe he said, wait a minute. We need to have a black law enforcement person, among
again I say
among the folks.
Again I say, how are the dots connected?
As a down payment on what he's gonna do. I don't know. We're gonna be watching though.
Still ahead, how the writer's strike could impact Black Hollywood.
That's right. The one and only Lunel joins us next to weigh in on our entertainment headlines. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report.
The one and only.
Mm-hmm.
And welcome back to FOXSOUL's Black Report. Now is the time where we dig in a little bit.
Ooh, we're going to have some fun today.
Talk about what's been happening all week long, little wrap up when it comes to our favorite celebrities and, of course, our entertainment headlines.
That's right. And on Fridays, we like to have a little more fun with these stories. So here to join in on the conversation is the very funny, iconic, legendary Lunel. Welcome to FOXSOUL's Black Report.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Lunel. You know, you are a treasure to the culture. So I just want to put that out there before we get into these headlines, darling.
Well, amen.
Amen. All right, so let's get into it. Here's the first one. Starting with the writer's strike. You're out there in LA. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers says it offered the Writers Guild Association what it calls a generous increase at double the annual pay for the raises. This is what the WGA claims.
That's right. And this was the first response from the group since talks broke off and the WGA called a strike earlier this week. Now, on the picket line, a father and daughter, both guild members protesting, say they're fearful about the future. Lunel, are you fearful about the future? And how long do you think this thing's going to last?
Well, I don't know how long it will last. I do remember the writer's strike that we had before many years ago, because that's where reality TV was spawned. It will affect me in as much as I am on two shows that use writers. That's Hacks, that's on HBO Max, and Tiny Beautiful Things, that's on Hulu. They will be, coming to a screeching halt, of course, because you can't have a show without writers. It won't affect me personally, however, because I have a flourishing comedy career, and you're looking at the writer for that.
Yeah, multiple streams of income. There you go.
And she got some fierce glasses, too.
Yeah.
Hiding the no makeup. It's a little early for me this morning.
I know. We appreciate you.
That's all right. Well, all the streets are talking and debating over life coach Iyanla Van Zandt. She appeared on The Griot.
Yes.
And she had something to say.
She did with the host, Ebony K. Williams. They had a little bit of a disagreement about dating, which has everyone, voicing their opinions. Let's take a listen.
Some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus? If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's the problem.
Oh, wow. Lunel, your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't totally disagree with the words that were spoken. A lot of our brothers are finding difficulty in the income categories. There are a lot of women who are out earning men right now, and it makes it difficult sometime in the household. I personally have and would date a bus driver. That's my problem. I've never had a man with more money than me to date me in my life. We were either in the same income bracket or they were in a lower income bracket than myself, being in the entertainment industry. But I just have an affinity for hardworking men. I like men that can fix things, do the manly things, men that work with their hands. I'm not into computer tech guys and businessmen. That's just not my thing. I wish that it was. I wouldn't have the dating history that I have. But I really like men, men that work in the construction, or my husband was an electrician and stuff like that. The man who is a bus driver who would date me, though, it would be difficult because of my travel schedule. They have to work, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and they may not can travel with me on the weekends or go where I go. So I would date a bus driver, but it might be difficult for us to maintain that relationship. Yeah. I know what the young lady was
Ebony.
saying. Yes, Miss Ebony. But also, I think that the energy you put out attracts the people that come at you. And even though she's a beautiful young lady, I think that her energy may be a turnoff to men in a lower income bracket and a higher one, because you just have to be, men are delicate. You and all men are delicate. They're like, you have to be nice. You have to be friendly. You have to exude some fun and excitement. You don't want to come off as a snob, because that's not a turn on for anyone. So, Iyanla, whose show I have been on, by the way, Iyanla Face
Saw
My
that
Life.
episode, yep.
Yes, I have always dated working men, so yeah, I would date a bus driver.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I think there's a tour bus driver out there that's watching that is checking for you, Lunel.
That would maybe it's a type of bus driver, Lunel. Maybe it could be a tour bus driver, and then y'all are together forever out there on the road.
He may want to drive your bus.
Yeah.
I need my dress to be driven. Believe me.
Oh God. All right. Shall we move on at this point? My God. I would date a bus driver too, though, really. And I think Ebony, both of them are my swords. I love them so much. I think Ebony was speaking, hopefully, more so to like the idea of ambition, and Miss Iyanla speaking more to what you need, what your soul needs, how to feel.
Yeah, but maybe he don't own the bus yet.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Nice way.
Maybe he's working toward owning the bus company. Maybe if he had a good woman by his side to motivate him and to tell him what he can do.
That's right. Encourage him.
Then, maybe it'd be a tour bus.
That's right.
Maybe it'd be a bus to take people to cruises. Maybe it'd be a bus to help the elderly. You don't know.
Work some of that magic.
Yeah. I think folks get a little too fixated on the occupation and not the person, the character, the integrity. But moving on. Let's
move on here. Rapper Da Brat and her wife Judy Dupart are causing quite the conversation after they were honest about their experience finding a sperm donor.
The couple said going into the journey, they had no idea that their chances of a black donor would be slim to none. The pair shared their story on their reality show, Brat Loves Judy, and showed how out of 6 different sperm banks and thousands of donors, about one of them was black.
The couple is facing backlash, after many online can't believe with their network of people they couldn't find a good black donor. Nell, what do you think? Out of all them folks, the Brat and her wife know that they couldn't find one brother to say, hey, yeah, I'm down.
No, there are many people who would be willing to impregnate the Brat, and brothers at that. And there were brothers that impregnated Judy, because she has children.
She has children, grown children.
It's the donor situation. It's the donor pool that is lacking. Brothers, black people in general, don't donate their sperm. Brothers, black people in general don't donate their organs. Brothers, black people in general don't donate their heart or donate blood, which is very weird and superstitious in that way. So while what she said is true, and maybe they did not like the way that she said it, it's not the Brat's fault. It's the fault of the brothers out here who don't donate sperm. And it's, they're donating it in women, but they're not donating it at the bank.
Maybe if they gave brothers a little money, like they do when you go donate blood.
I think you do get money.
You get $50.
Yeah,
you get a little $50 or something.
$50 for some kids?
They might have adjusted it for inflation, but I really think we've got to look at access to health care, because for a lot of these sperm banks, they require that you have lots and lots and lots of medical history that you submit. And so that's also been noted as a barrier for a lot of brothers in terms of donating their sperm.
I just felt like they was just somebody, like, I agree with you, Lunel. There was just somebody out there would have been like, I'm good, I'm down, let's go.
They would have put it in as a regular way, but they just don't want to donate sperm. But I mean, it is. She's speaking the truth. It's very slim picking.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't think that meant you needed to get a white sperm donor.
Right.
Maybe there's more Latino sperm donors than there are brothers. I don't know. I just wanted to have a healthy baby.
That's it at this point. Yeah. That's right.
And that's all I care about.
Well,
let's talk about the Met Gala.
Yeah.
It was this week, but there was one unexpected guest that absolutely stole the show.
Mm-hmm. Some say unexpected. We say unwanted dinner guest. Mm-hmm. That's because a roach, y'all. A roach appeared on the red carpet, sending photographers scrambling to get the perfect shot. But unfortunately, the moment was short-lived after someone stepped on it.
Tributes started rolling in on social media with comments like "Rest in peace, Met Gala cockroach, 2023 to 2023, Lunel." Roaches, and can they be hot couture? I mean, listen, it is New York though. Talk about roach. I'm surprised it wasn't a rat. Yeah,
a roach rat. Who
knows? Well, maybe somebody brought that roach with them. You know, maybe it wasn't a Met Gala roach. Maybe it was a Midtown roach that I know personally from my past lives. I have transported a roach into some place where they didn't belong.
Exactly.
That was pretty tired though. And that's a big old roach. That's not your common kitchen roach. That's a roach that will steal a loaf of bread out your kitchen.
A designer roach for sure. That was pretty big. That was pretty big.
It was disgusting.
Indeed. Before we let you go, Lunel, we want to know what's new with you. We love the Fenty model situation you got going on. Talk to us a little bit about it.
Well, I'd rather not talk about that.
Okay.
Because that's old news. I've been the Savage X Fenty lingerie ambassador for Rihanna before the Corona stepped in.
Sure.
And I have, went on to start an OnlyFans because of that.
Oh.
And just purchased my first
Therein
house.
lies the update.
So I want to thank I want to thank people for that. But more exciting news is that I am about to next month shoot my first Netflix special produced by Dave Chappelle.
Oh, wow.
And those tickets just went on sale today. If you follow me on Instagram at Lunel, Lunell, I'll be doing my first special, and I'm really excited about that. Of course, any affiliation with Rihanna is an amazing one, and we do talk. And the fact that she allowed me to represent her lingerie line, I mean, I couldn't be happier. You have to be pretty confident though, because her lingerie is that. I would have rather done a line of flannel gowns. You know what I'm saying? But if Rihanna says yes, who am I to say no? So it did open up a lot of opportunities for me, and but I'm not a model by trade, so I'm sticking to what I know best, and that is comedy. And my Netflix special will be taped next month in Oakland, California, where I was reared at, and you can look forward to dropping in the fall, like around October or something like that.
We can't wait for that.
We love you. We can't wait to watch it. As one person from the Bay to another person from the Bay, we love it and we love you.
That's right.
Please come back again anytime.
The Black Report. Absolutely, I will.
Thank you so much, Miss Lunel. We love and appreciate you. Travel safe.
Thank you so much. Bye, y'all.
Bye. Up next, it's our favorite segment, Nicordelai Corte.
That's all right. You already know it's the Black Excellence segment.
Yeah.
We'll introduce you to the newest executive editor of the Detroit Free Press. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report. We'll be right back.
The Detroit Free Press has appointed Nicole Avery Nichols as executive editor, making the HBCU graduate the first black woman to lead the paper. This is big.
It's very big, very big. Nichols is returning to the Free Press from her most recent job as editor-in-chief of Chalkbeat, a nonprofit educational news organization. Now, in 2000, the Free Press recruited Nichols away from the Detroit News to be a features writer. 3 years later, she became an editor and rose to the senior news director post.
Nichols is a Long Island native who earned a bachelor's degree in English from Tuskegee University, where she played trombone in the school's marching band. She went on to earn a master's degree in newspaper journalism from Syracuse University. And for the rundown on these stories and more, you can access Fox Soul's video on demand of any of our partners and past shows, all that good black-centered content. Don't forget to download the Fox app. It is absolutely free. Big plans for the weekend, Cordelai?
Off to Los Angeles to spend the weekend with hubby and friends and do the radio show.
And I am off to the couch because I'm still tired from my whirlwind of last week. And I got a little sty that I have to nurse on my eye. That's been the reason for the teacher look all week this week.
That's all right. Looks good on you.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Cordelai Corte. On behalf of the entire team at Fox Soul's Black Report, stay lifted.
And stay safe. We'll see you soon. Have a good weekend, huh?
All right.